Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into something really shaping the future of food: cultivated meat and seafood.
That's right, often called cellular agriculture.
And it holds, well, enormous promise, doesn't it, for things like climate change, animal welfare.
And food security, too, the potential is huge.
But you know, the science is advancing so rapidly.
It really is. But the success of this technology, it isn't ultimately measured in a lab, is it? It's measured in public trust.
Exactly. So our mission today is really to understand the social and emotional side of this innovation.
What genuinely drives public acceptance? And crucially, how do we sort of co-create its legitimacy?
And we've got some fantastic insights to draw on. We're looking at real-world data from the Bee Trust project.
That's the EU Horizon Europe-funded project, looking into inclusive governance for biotech trust.
And we're also bringing in survey data from the Feast project, which helps anchor these findings.
So the big question for this deep dive is really fundamental, isn't it? How do you actually get from a promising cell in a bioreactor
To something people recognize and accept on their dinner plate.
Precisely. We're shifting the focus from pure cell science to, well, social acceptance.
Okay, so let's unpack the reality on the ground first. The technical breakthroughs, they've been pretty staggering.
Absolutely. We heard from people like Carlos Campillos at GFI Europe.
And he highlighted how the technical innovation is, frankly, running ahead of everything else.
Way ahead of the societal readiness, and definitely ahead of the regulatory frameworks.
And that's the critical friction point, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, the science has overcome major hurdles. Things like finding cost-effective growth mediums that aren't animal-derived.
Replacing the really expensive traditional ones.
Exactly. And scaling up bioreactors efficiently. So technically, the industry's getting ready.
But society isn't quite ready to receive it yet.
Not quite. And that regulatory lag, well, it creates this huge information vacuum.
Yeah, basic questions remain unanswered for many people. When will these products actually be available in Europe?
How safe are they? Who's checking? What oversight exists?
And that uncertainty, it's just toxic for building trust.
Completely. It naturally slows down adoption because consumers, well, they lack awareness, and even worse, they lack that feeling of assurance.
So the future of cellular agriculture isn't just about the science being ready.
No, it's about whether our institutions are ready to govern it transparently and legitimately.
And acceptance isn't even uniform across the board, is it?
Not at all.
Yeah.
We see really significant differences in openness, even between neighboring countries in Europe.
Wow. That puts enormous pressure on institutional trust then.
It does. If trust in the system is shaky, maybe because of unrelated political issues or, say, a food scare in a different sector,
It doesn't matter how good the cultivated meat science is.
the public acceptance can just crumble. It's like people not trusting the referee, so they won't trust the game.
That makes sense. So the product's fate is tied to things way outside its actual production.
That's the challenge. Governance, especially in Europe, really needs to catch up. Otherwise, this whole opportunity could stall.
Okay, so moving from that regulatory gap to the people themselves, the Bee Trust co-creation workshops were key here.
Yes, facilitated by experts like Helene Imshoot from Flanders Food and Sofía Rose from Cultivated. They really focused on getting that qualitative pulse.
And what did they find? What was the feeling?
Well, genuine emotional ambivalence. That's the core finding.
Ambivalence how?
People express this really strong mix. On one hand, curiosity, even fascination, the wow factor of it all.
Growing meat without the animal.
Right. But mixed deeply with real hesitancy, fundamental hesitancy.
Around what specifically?
Key concerns kept coming up around concepts like naturalness. How natural is this?
And questions about who really benefits.
Exactly. Is this genuinely for the public good, or is it mainly serving large corporate interests? That taps into really core values.
Goes way beyond just the nutritional facts on a label.
Far beyond. When people feel disconnected from how their food is made, they often look to tradition, to nature for that sense of reassurance.
So if something feels like a radical departure from nature,
It triggers an internal alarm, doesn't it? Even if the safety data is perfectly sound.
I can imagine this tension must be particularly strong for traditional food producers, like farmers.
Oh, definitely. The workshops highlighted specific anxieties from the agricultural community. Very profound concerns.
Such as?
It's not just a simple fear of being replaced. It's deeper. It's about control over the food system, land use.
Big picture stuff.
Big picture, yes. They asked really pointed questions. Will this new technology complement what we do, or will big biotech firms end up dictating terms, leaving us powerless.
You have to address that, surely.
Absolutely. Trust requires acknowledging that their identity, their livelihood, is tied up in what food even means. Ignoring that is just asking for rejection.
And given all this emotional complexity, language becomes critical, doesn't it?
Hugely critical. A real communication landmine sometimes.
The research showed certain words immediately put people off.
Consistently. Terms like lab-grown or synthetic, they carry negative baggage, suggest something artificial, detached from nature.
Whereas other terms felt more neutral.
Yes, words like cultivated or cell-based tended to be perceived more neutrally, even positively. They suggest a gentler process, maybe.
But hang on, isn't lab-grown actually, well, accurate? Shouldn't transparency be paramount, even if the term is tricky?
That's a really important point. And transparency is non-negotiable.
So what's the balance? You risk sounding deceptive if you avoid certain words?
The goal isn't deception. It's about managing inherent bias in language so you can even start the conversation. Highly charged terms can shut down dialogue before any facts are shared.
Ah, I see. So using cultivated is about keeping the door open.
Exactly. Keeping it open long enough to explain the process clearly and honestly, which is precisely what industry pioneers like Inigo Shirola from Biotech Foods emphasize.
So the main lesson from the workshops is?
Trust is built through inclusion, early, honest, continuous dialogue. Not just trying to persuade people with clever wording.
Right. Let's connect these qualitative insights to some hard numbers. Professor Paul Chrysochou from Aarhus University shared large-scale survey data.
Yes, from the Feast Project, polling consumers in places like Germany and Spain.
And did the numbers back up this idea of ambivalence and value-based concerns?
They absolutely confirmed the immense variation. It's definitely not a simple yes or no picture.
What did that variation look like?
Well, on one side, you have a group of consumers who are really quite open, almost eager for these products.
What motivates them?
Primarily, it seems, a deep commitment to sustainability and animal welfare. They see cultivated meat as a potential solution they've been waiting for.
Okay. And the other side?
You have the more skeptical group. They raise concerns about safety, the perceived unnaturalness we talked about, or simply feel they don't have enough information yet.
And awareness levels play a big role here.
A huge role. Awareness is still quite low overall in many markets.
Which means?
It means those initial impressions are incredibly powerful, whether it's from a dramatic media headline or maybe confusing labeling.
First impressions really count when knowledge is low.
Exactly. People fall back on mental shortcuts, heuristics, to make up their minds.
So in that low information environment, what do people anchor their decisions to? What helps them decide?
The data points quite clearly to trust in institutions and regulators. That's the anchor.
So faith in the system itself.
Precisely. If people trust the food safety agencies, the bodies setting the rules, if they trust them to do their job properly.
They're more willing to give a new food technology a chance.
Much more willing, yes. That institutional trust acts as a crucial buffer. But if that system feels compromised or incompetent,
then people default to caution, regardless of the product.
they do. It doesn't matter how good the science is if the perceived referee is suspect.
Wow. That really reframes the regulatory approval process. It's not just about ticking boxes.
No, it's a major public confidence building exercise.
A communication opportunity that shouldn't be missed.
Definitely not. The transparency and rigor of that process are what build the legitimacy the product needs to withstand public scrutiny.
Okay, so this huge variation means you can't just talk to the public as if they're all the same.
Absolutely not. It's a non-monolithic audience.
And this is where Karis Hoffman from CSCP brought in the idea of using consumer personas.
Yes, personas are really vital tools because they force innovators and communicators to meet people where they are.
Mapping the audience based on their values, not just demographics.
Exactly.
Can you give us a couple of examples, maybe the early enthusiast versus the concerned traditionalist? How do their needs differ?
Okay, so the early enthusiast. They're often driven by the technology itself, the potential impact.
They're like innovation?
Yes, they value innovation, sustainability, efficiency.
Yeah.
So to talk to them, you lead with the tech details, the science.
Like the bioreactor scaling, the alternative growth mediums?
Exactly. The data on reduced water use, land use. They want the scientific narrative. They're excited by the how.
Right. And the concerned traditionalist. Someone who prioritizes familiarity, maybe tradition. You can't lead with bioreactors there.
No, definitely not. For the traditionalist, the focus has to be completely different. It's about reassurance, analogy,
How so?
You'd stress the purity of the initial cells, maybe compare the safety protocols to rigorous standards in traditional food processing. You might draw parallels to familiar processes like brewing or fermentation.
Things people already accept.
Right. You focus on taste, texture, cultural fit, the guarantee of safety, and the known, not the novelty or efficiency.
That's such a fundamental shift in messaging.
It really is. It underlines that engagement has to be an invitation, tailored to specific concerns, not just broadcasting information after the fact.
Because different things resonate with different groups.
Absolutely. Environmental benefits might sway one group, while taste, tradition, and rock-solid safety assurances are the only way to connect with another.
Okay, let's bring in the perspective of the people actually building this industry. Inigo Sharola from Biotech Foods gave some crucial insights.
Yes, he really highlighted the dual challenge these pioneers face.
Which is?
Navigating incredibly complex, often still developing regulations, while simultaneously trying to craft an effective story for a completely new category of food.
That sounds like walking a tightrope.
It really is. You need to be a scientist, an engineer, and a brilliant communicator, all rolled into one.
So what's their strategy for building trust right from the start?
He described it as a pioneer strategy, early and transparent engagement, all the way along the value chain.
Involving who?
Chefs, nutritionists, food safety experts, and consumers themselves, right from the early stages.
And being upfront is key.
Absolutely critical. Being totally clear about what the technology is, how it works, and just as importantly, what it isn't.
Setting expectations.
Yes, and that level of openness, that generates a kind of respect that you just can't achieve through marketing spin.
And that proactive approach helps frame the narrative correctly.
It does, making sure people understand this is about expanding food choices, potentially reducing huge environmental impacts.
Not necessarily replacing tradition or marginalizing farmers.
Exactly. Acceptance ultimately needs belief, and belief needs trust. The industry can't just wait for regulators. They have to actively build that trust, step by step.
Recognizing that the social license to operate is earned through dialogue.
Not just achieved through a technical breakthrough. Hashtag, tag, targe tag, outro.
Well, a huge thank you to all the expert voices who contributed to this, including Carlos Campillos, Helene Imschut, Sofía Rose, Paul Kersochu, Terrace Hoffman, and Inigo Sharola. This deep dive really underlines it, doesn't it? The biggest challenges for cultivated cells aren't purely scientific.
No, they're deeply human, rooted in values, anxieties, and ultimately, trust in the institutions governing our food.
The main takeaway seems crystal clear.
Trust in cultivated cells is shaped just as much by ethics, culture, and emotions as it is by scientific facts. There's no getting around that.
And early, inclusive engagement is the key.
It's the only sustainable way to bridge that belief gap. Using tools like co-creation, like personas, is essential for innovators.
Which really means that shaping the future of food requires everyone, industry, government, civil society, to build that legitimacy together.
You often hear that trust needs to be earned.
Yes.
But maybe for cultivated cells, it's more than that. Trust isn't something you just sprinkle on at the end.
It has to be baked in from the start.
Exactly. Baked in from the very first cell, the very first conversation, the very first regulatory proposal.
Because if we don't get the governance and the communication right now,
we risk this just becoming a niche, maybe elite food product in some markets, and completely failing that bigger mission around global food security and climate.
A really critical point to end on. If you, listening, are curious to dig deeper into how these frameworks are being applied,
we definitely encourage you to visit the Be Trust Forum.
You can find the full Masterclass recordings there, project updates, and really continue exploring this intersection of food policy, biotech governance, and public trust.
Because lab-grown food might start in a petri dish.
But public acceptance, that grows from honest conversation.
Absolutely. Something we grow together.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.